Go for it.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I'm Isaiah, and you are?
Miles, and we are
And we
718 Sports. Welcome back to episode number 2. A big week in sports. Isaiah, how are we feeling?
we're feeling good. And Miles, I wanted to start off a little strong. I know we're
Hmm.
dealing with All-Star Weekend, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Nets firing their head coach.
Yeah, I mean, that happened as of today in this recording. Jacques Vaughn let go by the Brooklyn Nets. And for me, it was a move that was coming, right? There was a lot going on that I did not like, and that most importantly, the players did not like. So the big one, obviously, the Nets lost by 50 points to the Celtics, um, which is the definition of a blowout. You cannot lose by 50 points to your rival team, the Boston Celtics. And then most notably, I think the benching of Cam Thomas and his impact on the Brooklyn Nets was a huge reason why he got fired. Cam Thomas is an elite scorer, period. He's really good. He's really strong. His only problem is that he takes bad shots sometimes. And there are some shots where I'm like, I am like, that is a terrible shot. Like, I don't know what he was thinking there. But the kid is young. He's learning. He's still experiencing the NBA atmosphere. And the Brooklyn Nets, the past 2 or 3 years, have just like refused to play him, and they'll play like a Royce O'Neal over him. Which, no disrespect to Royce O'Neal, but like he is not nearly as good of a scorer as Cam Thomas. And at the end of the day, the Nets just need more points. They need more points. They need buckets. They need all this like juice flowing into them, and they weren't getting it with what they had. And Jacques Vaughn was holding this group back. Simply put, they were holding them back. And it's disappointing because I like Jacques Vaughn a lot. I've actually met Jacques Vaughn. He's a really nice guy, really nice individual. Um, and, it's tough to see him go, but at the same time, it is for the best interest of the team. My only concern is that he's on a multi-year contract extension. And so he signed that last year. It was like 3 or 4 years. So the Nets are going to be paying him while another coach is coaching the team, which does concern me a good amount, I would say.
I do have a follow-up to that. The Nets have gone through, I want to say, three coaches in the last five-ish years. Steve Nash, Jock Vaughn. I'm forgetting the
Kenny
first guy.
Atkinson.
Kenny
Kenny
Atkinson,
Atkinson.
the GOAT Kenny
Come on
Atkinson.
now.
So, do you think it's more of a coaching issue or more of a team issue? Because there's been a lot of different teams. Atkinson had D'Lo, Karras, LeVert, all those guys. Steve Nash had the big three: Harding, Durant, and Kyrie. But do you think it's a coaching issue or is it more in the team like culture and environment?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you can't pinpoint one against the other. I don't think Steve Nash was the right head coach for that big three group looking back. Steve Nash simply let them do whatever they wanted, let Kyrie take a bunch of days off, and that wasn't great for the team, wasn't great for the chemistry, wasn't great for James Harden, who was visibly upset about having to put a lot more work in than Kyrie Irving. Going with Kenny Atkinson, he didn't have the respect of the players a lot of the time, especially with Katie and Kyrie, while Steve Nash did. And then with Jacques Vaughn, it's like he's not an experimental coach. He's just one of those coaches who, like, he's going to be a fine coach, but you didn't really expect him to be a great coach. And so when the players have that thought of like, our coach is good, but not great, and our coach might be holding us back, then they're going to start to resent. And also, just I'll be honest, that Brooklyn Nets big three, like there was a lot of drama, there was a lot of nonsense, there was a lot of skipping games, there was a lot of Kevin Durant literally admit like, if this is the team you're giving me, I can't win championships, which is a crazy thing to say as a player. Back then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
KD just said something crazy, like whatever. But I mean, Kevin Durant, the star of your franchise, is literally saying that management is not giving me the right tools to perform, and our team sucks except for me. That's a wild quote.
Yeah.
Um, and it was allowed. Like it was just like, sure, cool, And Steve Nash is like, feel how he feels, like no problem. He's Kevin Durant, so he can do whatever he wants. But at the same time, if you have a coach that is letting you do whatever you want, that's a huge problem, and that destroys the chemistry. And that's what happened with that specific Steve Nash era. Kenny Atkinson, I thought was a great coach. Brought the Nets back, really brought the Nets back, brought the juice, brought the energy, especially
Mhm.
in that 2019 squad. But I mean, once you get the superstars, they're looking for a little more. They're looking more than just a coach. They want a mentor and a follower and a leader. And I'm not saying Steve Nash was not one of those things or Kenny Atkinson was not one of those things, but they're looking for more of that for sure.
Hmm. And on that note, let's switch to the All-Star game. What were your takeaways? My personal biggest takeaway was just Matt McClung. Like that guy's been around. I watched that guy when I was younger on like House of Highlights. He's dunk contest like dunk legend. But besides him, there wasn't anything special this weekend. Sabrina versus Curry wasn't as good as I thought. The replay contest was just bad. Dunk contest was just boring. And then the All-Star game wasn't what I thought. It wasn't there wasn't anything interesting besides Matt McClung, in my opinion.
So that's where I have to disagree with you. I'm gonna say this. Mac McClung had a great performance. The dude is literally a G League player and is carrying the dunk contest. Like, think about that for a second.
He is the best dunker in the NBA
He is
right
the
now.
best
And
dunker in the
maybe
NBA.
the
The
best dunker in
problem
the
with the
league.
dunk contest is in the All-Star game is that the players just don't take him seriously.
Mhm.
Like, look back even 5, 6 years ago. Remember when Aaron Gordon was like destroying the rack in Barclays as
Don't
and
remind me,
then
man.
Zach
Aaron Gordon
Levine?
versus Zach LaVine. Those were
Like,
the days. Those were the days.
what happened to that? And now you got a G League player versus Jalen Brown. I'm not saying Jalen Brown is a bad player or a bad
Bad
dunker, but
dunker, yeah.
he is not Zach Levine and you know, like you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's disappointing to see how the players are not really taking it seriously because especially with load management coming into the picture a lot more and more and more, um, players are like, well, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get injured. So I'm just going to run around and get some cardio in and take a stupid half court shot and probably sink it because, I'm Damian Lillard or whatever. But I disagree with. I think the 3-point contest was a lot of fun. Damian Lillard won the one 3-point contest at the last ball. Like that's pretty fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And the Sabrina and Curry thing, everyone's been talking about it for so long about who's the better shooter, Sabrina or Curry? WNBA versus NBA, and it was really close. And I mean, Sabrina had more like threes than a lot of the NBA guys, which was super impressive because
Mhm.
everyone's been discounting Sabrina just because she's in the WNBA, just because she's not in the NBA, just because she's a woman in general. And she proved a ton of that wrong, which I think is a huge success for the WNBA. Yeah, she didn't win, but oh my God, she lost to Stephen Curry, literally the best 3-point shooter on the planet for like years now. So I thought that was really cool that the NBA did that. Um, and especially that cross WNBA, NBA like collaboration was really entertaining to watch because we haven't really seen that all throughout sports. We've seen NBA East West, we've seen, Team LeBron versus Team Giannis, but have you ever seen the WNBA and the NBA come together for one big night? Really cool experience, I thought. The game itself, the All-Star game, like 200 something points by the East All Stars. That's just ridiculous. That
Yeah.
is ridiculous. The fact that anyone could score 200 points. That means the defense is just sitting around, pretending to be one of those
Not
things,
even
car
standing, just
wash,
I
just going
looked
back
one.
and
Yeah.
forth.
Hmm.
Like, just not great defense. They don't care. They're just going there because you're an all-star. Great, you're an all-star. Like whatever. They don't play defense. And I'm not saying they should like guard them and full court press them. Like that's not appropriate either. But you can't you can't just like not try on national television. And when like you have casual fans going out there being like, well, obviously they're not trying, it's not a great look for the NBA. But I think the problem, interestingly, with the All-Star game is that, you know, this is every All-Star game, the Pro Bowl, NHL, uh, what's the other one? MLB. They hype the All-Star game up like crazy. Like for weeks, All-Star game coming to, where Indianapolis,
Blank. Yeah, coming to blank.
coming to blank, be there. It was like $500 for like, you know,
Nosebleeds.
nosebleed seats for the
Yeah.
All-Star game. That's
And that's
not
not even
really great.
All-Star weekend. That's just for the game individually.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in the All-Star game. Was it a failure? No. Was it a success? No. You know, and so I think there's a lot of potential that were showcased this week. I'm really glad they went back to that East-West format. I think that made it so much more interesting. even just being a fan of an East Coast team, like, you're like, yeah, like, go East Coast, like,
Yeah. It gives you a team to
have
root for.
exactly. And it's like interesting. It's hard to root for, Jalen Brunson and Jason Tatum because I'm a Nets fan. But at the same time, you get that pride of like, these are the guys that are my neighbors and my rivals. And, let's go against these guys and we're going to beat them. So that
Mhm,
sense of pride is back instead of like a random draft between LeBron and Durant. I don't know. I was like, that's not that interesting. So
mhm.
anyway, I want to hear your thoughts because I've been blabbing a lot about this. And so what is your take on the All-Star game? What did you think of it? What do you think about the Sabrina versus the Curry stuff? That's what I'm really interested to hear.
I mean, honestly, it wasn't the most interesting thing to me. I thought Curry was gonna win. Curry won. I was more interested in the Rising Stars game just because there was a full G League team in there. There was I forgot Matisse something. What is it? Projected first round pick, hit the game winning shot over. I think I don't want to say Jalen's team, but there was some good games. Benedict Mathurin was talking a lot of smack to my guy Jaden Ivey, which I didn't appreciate, but talking a lot of smack. Lost 25K on a free throw bet. So that was pretty cool. That was like some nice camaraderie, but I didn't like how that game was formatted either, with like going up to 40 in like multiple games. Celebrity All-Star game was also underwhelming. They did my man Kai Cenat wrong, give him more minutes. But just an underwhelming weekend. I tuned into the All-Star game just to see Dame hit like a logo three. And it wasn't anything crazy. It's what they usually do. Like it just there's no I saw a quote. There's like Stephen A. Smith said LeBron ruined the dunk contest. It's like no one cares anymore. There's no love for it. There's no money on board, but like Anthony Edwards was shooting in the skill contest lefty. Like no one cares. Like who would want to watch? Like who would go out of their way to watch that? There's just no love in that anymore. And I mean, we're both MLB fans. We both love the home run derby. We both love like the All-Star game camaraderie at the MLB All-Star game. The Pro Bowl events are more hyped than the actual game. And it's just there's no love anymore. The NHL All-Star game. The only thing I saw about the game is Tate McRae. That's all I saw about the NHL All-Star game. They're just All-Star games just they're losing a lot of fans, losing a lot of love. Like I'm not gonna fly to Indianapolis for the All-Star game, but I fly to New York. I live in New York. Like, I don't need to go anywhere. They're just like no love and no camaraderie within like the fans of the team. It's just Adam Silver did a really bad job this year, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think the lack of competitiveness in All-Star games is becoming a problem.
Mm.
And even in baseball, I love the home run derby. I love the All-Star game. But the idea of an all-star game is to have the best of the best play each other. But you're not really getting that. You are getting, the best of the best players, but they're not playing to their best ability. And it's like become sort of this joke with like, Fox is miking up Liam Hendricks during his pitches and, they're interviewing Mookie Betts in the outfield. And it's like, that's not what we want to see. We want to see a competitive, hard fought battle between some of the best players in each individual, conference league, depending on like NHL, NBA, of course. I think the NHL All Star game is my personal favorite one just because they have the skills competition and some of it is really impressive. I think like the speed skating stuff is really exciting, the shots and just all that stuff is super exciting. I'm also an Islanders fan, so seeing Matt Barzal like sprint across the ice facing Connor McDavid, like it's exciting. It's cool. It's a different part of the game you don't think about, like who's really the fastest guy on the ice. But at the same time, obviously they're not playing up to their full competitiveness. And honestly, I think the fans aren't interested anymore. And so what that results in is people aren't watching. Everyone's like, oh, like now we have to watch the All-Star game. Not even now we have to watch the All-Star game. It's more of we have to wait a week till the next team plays. That's what the takeaway's been. As a Nets fan, I'm like, oh, well, we lost to the Celtics by 50, so can't get worse than that, right? So I guess we gotta like wait a week until they play the Raptors on Tuesday. So it's like, all right, cool. I guess we'll just wait a week instead of like, wow, there's all these cool stuff going on, all this exciting entertainment. It's fantastic. But nope, not what we're getting with the All-Star games.
That's crazy. I was muted. We'll switch to the MLB right now. I want to hear your predictions for the divisions because we got Who signed today? Liam Hendricks signed today. Grichuk signed yesterday. Woodruff signed today. We still have a lot of guys left in free agency. A lot of teams are still building up, but as of today, I want to hear division predictions for
All
each
right.
one. Let's go each. Let's start
Let's go each
your
one. Let's
team,
start with the
AL
AL
East.
East.
Let's go
Let's
AL
start
East to
with
start.
AL East, So in
Give
fifth
me teams in
place,
order. I want to hear every
yeah. Well,
team.
hold on. I think the way we should frame this is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go, worst to first. So what do you think the worst team in the AL East is going to be this year?
Worst team in the AL East. I think we both know the answer to this. It's gonna be the Boston Red Sox. They really haven't done much. They signed Lucas Giolito. They signed Liam Hendricks. So they're bolstering their pitching, but those guys aren't game changers. They still have Yoshida, who's a great player. Marcelo Mayers in the minors. They have a really good farm system. That's it. They just have a good farm system. Rafael Devers is on his own. They couldn't sign Bogarts. They couldn't sign Mookie. They haven't been able to get guys like they used to. That I think it was 2019 team was full of, yes, people like random off the bench guys, but it was also just full of like Mookie Betts, Devers, Bogarts. Like Pedroia was on that team, Price was on that team, Sale was on that team. Like that was full of stars, and those guys just haven't been there. So Red Sox are going to be at 5 in my list.
Yeah, I'm going to join you. I am a Yankees fan. I'm not saying that the Reds, I'm completely unbiased in these picks, by the way. Um, I'm going to say this. The Red Sox have astounded me of how bad they're running their franchise. The amount of decisions they've made, like, really shock me. Don't even shock me. They shock everyone in the sports reporting world. Ken Rosenthal is like, what are they doing? I think here's an example. Jordan Montgomery wants to live in Boston, wants to play for Boston. It's perfect. That like 2-year deal, it's perfect for Jordan Montgomery. And they're like, nah, well, we would rather, roast some random nobody on the mound. And it's just like the fans are starting to get their fans are booing them at their events now. And it's just getting a little ugly, a little quickly. And it's a shame to see because the Red Sox have been so historical. They've won so many championships. Um, and seeing them play in Fenway Park with like, a AAA team half the time, it's like,
Mhm.
eh. But at the same time, they're not a AAA team because they have guys like Trevor Story and they'll sign Liam Kendricks. Like they'll sign players that like attract some sort of attention, but not nearly enough as they should. If they went out and they signed, traded for Soto, it would have been a huge deal. But no, they just refuse every time. They just like want to stay below the payroll. They're starting to think more money wise instead of fan wise, which is disappointing to see. But
Mhm.
let's move on to the number 4. And it's tough because everyone
Yeah.
outside of the Red Sox realistically could win the AL East.
hmm Realistically, but we both know who's gonna win the AL East. So just
Yeah.
hit me with we both know who number 4 is.
Number 4, I'm gonna go with the Rays for number 4.
Wow, that's a take. That is a take.
That is a take. I know. I know. Here's why. Last season was probably the most disappointing season of Rays baseball I've ever seen. You win 91 games. You barely make the playoffs. You lose. You don't barely make the playoffs. That's wrong of me to say. You get swept by the Rangers in the first round. The year before that, 2022. What happened in 2022? Did the Rays even make the play? No, they lost to the Guardians. They swept by the Guardians. The year before that, like lost in a series to the Red Sox. They're not playing to win anymore. And obviously they're going to be a good team. They're going to win 85 plus games this year. Like I'm pretty sure they're going to win 85 plus games. They're probably going to kill my Yankees at some point. It's inevitable to happen, but I just don't feel it this year with them. I don't feel it, especially with the Wander Franco stuff. I just don't feel it. I don't like what they're doing. Um, and it's just kind of a disappointing, not disappointing team, but I'm predicting a disappointing season from the Rays.
hmm So I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. My number 4 in the AL East is gonna be that team up north. I love Toronto. You know I love Toronto. Six God, but I don't think they have it. I know you've talked about it yourself. They fall off at the end of the year. They haven't really signed anybody special. That team is still very good. They have
They signed
Gosman.
Isaiah Connor Falefa. What are you talking about?
Sorry, I forgot the Yankees legend. But they haven't signed anyone. Bellinger was his ex, not his ex, sorry. His girlfriend was in Toronto over Christmas. No winter meetings, nothing happened. They need to sign somebody. Joey Votto, who nothing crazy, but Canadian, good for the culture. He's not a game changer. You're shaking your head, but he's not a game changer, but he's somebody. They have Bo Bichette. Like they have guys, especially young guys they can build around. And they're signing Kiner Falefa. They lost Pilar when Pilar was in his prime a few years ago. Kevin Kiermaier is still starting. Like the team, they're a very good team to me. I think they should win at least 80 games. I'll say maybe 90 at most, but they're not a playoff team to me. I think they'll be last three in for playoffs, or sorry, or last three out for playoffs. I think they'll be in the hunt the whole year, but I don't think they have it in them.
Yeah, I mean the Blue Jays are going to be my number three pick. And the reason I have them over the Rays is just because of that star power.
Hmm.
I do trust Bo Bichette. I do trust Vlad. You know, obviously, I don't think they're going to win the division. I don't think they have the tools. I think they need to do more in this free agents, like off season, whatever. They need to get the big guns. They need to re-sign Matt Chapman, period. And, it's hard because they're a good team on paper, but every year it seems like there's some sort of nonsense that drags them out. Vlad said in 2021, like this year was the movie, the next year is going to be, or this was a trailer, next year is going to be the movie, and then they're like,
Yeah, they fizzle
lost
out. Yeah,
in the first
they
round or
just
whatever.
fizzle. Yeah, they lost Chapman. They
Yeah,
lost Simeon. They lost, what was it? 2 years ago, they had the MVP and the Cy Young, I'm pretty sure.
yeah,
Simeon and Robbie Ray on the same team, and you can't
exactly.
make the ALDS. Like, what is
Yeah,
going on?
yeah.
What? I don't know. That team should be way better than they are, but that's a team, unlike my number three pick, the Yankees, that like the Yankees have the playoff experience. The Yankees should be the three in the AL East. They signed, oh my gosh, who did they sign? Stroman. I'm bugging out here. They signed Stroman. They upgraded the pitching staff. They reportedly offered Snell because they're hoping nobody matches that because no one wants to pay him a big deal. So they could possibly get Snell. They did lose a lot of the bullpen, but the bullpen is where I'm a big Yankee fan, but their bullpen is not to be messed with. They got guys, they make Michael King look like the future of pitching.
He's
They
not in
have
the
their
Yankees
pitching
anymore.
coaches. I mean, not anymore.
Yeah,
He's not with that system, but
yeah,
those pitching coaches do wonders in the bullpen.
yeah.
I mean, Volpe wasn't everything, but you're getting Judge back healthy. Stanton's lost, I believe, 20 pounds. So Stanton might be healthy for the whole year now. Dominguez will be back mid-year. You signed Verdugo. You have Tommy Pham. You have guys. So I think that team can end up being a two or three wild card. That team's going to be very fun to watch. I believe they have the most expensive ticket in baseball this year with Dodgers Yankees in Yankee Stadium. So I think the Yankees are going to be a really fun team to watch, especially for a third place team.
Mhm. Hmm. So here's where you're gonna get mad at me. I'm gonna put the Orioles in number two, and here's why.
Unbiased.
Unbiased. I know. I understand. Everyone is locking the Orioles as the number one seed and the best team in the American League. They're a good team. I am not saying they're a bad team when I'm saying this. What I'm saying here, though, now, they do not have the experience of the Yankees. But looking at the Orioles, I'll talk to about the Yankees in a second. The Orioles, Adley Rutschman, who else they got? Why am I blanking on every single name here?
Gunnar Henderson.
Hunter Henderson, exactly.
Corbin Burns.
Corbin Burns.
I'm trying to think of people too. Mom. Oh my gosh. This is bad. This is bad that we
This is
can't remember.
rough for the both of us. It's not a great look. Anyway, I
Who's the outfielder?
was gonna say Adam Jones, but that's not.
Yeah, but no, 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 doesn't waste time. I'm
Regardless,
gonna disagree with you though. I agree that they don't have experience,
yeah,
but they have arguably besides, I would
they
say,
got
the Braves
so I
and the
understand they
Dodgers.
win 101 games last season. They were the number one seed.
And they've only gotten better. They're gonna get Jackson Holiday this year. They got Corbin Burns. They're
They're a
only gonna
young
get better.
team, and I'm not saying they're going to
Yeah.
be a bad team. They are a good team. They are going to make the playoffs. Could they win the one seed? Sure. I'm gonna predict they're not, but if they did, I'd be like, great, not surprised. But I want to hear why you think whoever is number two before we get into the
So
number ones.
let me just say too, I forgot to put in the great Juan Soto in the Yankees thing. I think the Yankees with Juan Soto will be an amazing team. I don't think they're gonna be better than the Rays because the Rays just build up. The Rays have arguably the best farm system besides the Braves in the last 5 or 6 years. Wander Franco, very, very controversial. I'm not gonna speak on him, but he up in that system. Taj Bradley, who had a great rookie year in that system. McClanahan in that system. Glass now developed with them. The coaching staff they have there is amazing. And let me go look right now. The number 4 prospect in the MLB pipeline right now, Junior Camarino, a third base and shortstop, who is going to replace Wander Franco. So you're pretty much putting one superstar in for another.
Hmm.
That team is probably not going to win the AL East because of the Yankees' star power and also the just greatness of the Orioles, but they're going to be a playoff team. They'll probably end up being also a 2 or 3 in that wild card, but that's going to be a really rough wild card this year. And I could totally see the Yankees not making the playoffs and the Rays just beating them out.
So the Yankees are going to win the American League East. And here's why. I'm going to read through the lineup that they're projected to have as of today, which is February 19th, 2024. This is before they eventually, in my opinion, signed Blake Snell. DJ LeMahieu at third base. Pretty good bat. Move him all around. Pretty solid guy. Then you got Soto, arguably a top 3 player in baseball. Then you got Judge, arguably a top 3 player in baseball. Remember, Anthony Rizzo, great fielder, great locker room presence. Had that weird concussion injury last year. He's going to be healthy. It's going to be really exciting. Gleyber Torres, in my opinion, one of the best second basemen in the league, totally underrated. Alex Verdugo, solid left fielder, gets the job done, shows up, has a great time. Definitely a really underrated baseball player. Giancarlo Stanton, I understand he strikes out a lot. I understand he only strikes out or hits bombs. But when you have Giancarlo Stanton in your lineup, and when he's good, he can be really, really good for a team. Then you got Anthony Volpe. You got a gold glove shortstop who steals a lot of bases, is super athletic, gets on base, and is going to have a great year. And then you got Austin Wells slash Jose Trevino in the 9 hole. Jose Trevino is one of the best framers in the entire league. Austin Wells is a top 5 prospect catcher the Yankees have had for a long time. And then you look at the 2024 starters. AL Cy Young, Garrett Cole. Rodon, he had a terrible year last year. He can have a really good year. People forget how really good he was 2 or 3 years ago. He's really good. There's a reason he was a really high free agent. He got the contract that he got because he's really good. Stroman, he's going to be a solid guy. Cortez, he's had an injury problem in the past, but don't forget Nasty Nestor. He is a really good pitcher. And then you got Clark Schmidt, which again isn't bad. But if you put Snell in that lineup, top
Yeah.
rotation in baseball.
I'm going to say one name too. I wonder
Mm,
if you remember this name. Do you remember the name Rich Hill? Do you know who that is?
yeah.
That man pitched like he was an all-star. He pitched like he was 25 when he was on the Rays. On Pittsburgh, he was 40. On the Rays, he pitched like he was a Cy Young caliber. He wasn't not a Cy Young caliber player, but he pitched way better than his skill level. That is because the Rays have arguably one of the best overall staffs in the MLB, top to bottom, from the GM to the president of scouting. That's what sets them apart. That's why Randy Rosarena in that system, all those guys come up through the system. They don't have money like the Yankees do. Have the Yankees been to any World Series since 2009?
No.
I'm waiting for the answer. And how
No.
many have the Rays been to? More
One.
than that. More than that. That's all that
Wait, wait,
matters.
wait. What was the second one?
More than that. That's all
Hold
that
on,
matters.
hold on, hold on. Back it up. 2020 against the Dodgers. That's it. That's all they had.
Exactly. But that's still more appearances than the Yankees have. And I mean, I don't know. The AL is very complicated this year. I think that the division leaders, it's very unfortunate that teams aren't in the AL Central because the AL Central is so weak.
The Red Sox can win the AL Central for all I know.
I agree with that. That's the AL Central is weak of the week. And the problem with that is that AL West has Texas, it has Houston, Seattle, 3 teams that could possibly all make the playoffs. So it means the loser of the AL East is really fighting for a spot. So hypothetically, only the winner of the AL East could make the playoffs, which makes every single thing more important. And I don't think that the Yankees have the staff, or not the staff, but the coaching and the depth in the lineup to really make that difference. Their bench isn't the same as it was.
Okay. I like your point on their bench not being as great as it was. I think where they're going to run into problems is their injuries. I think that's a huge concern. But I mean, the depth, I mean, their entire roster, when good, they can be really good. Um, and I want to hear why you think the Orioles are going to win the AL East. I want to hear your take. And then after that, we're going to move on to some other stuff because we're running a little short on time.
Hmm. If you want to just stick to AL East this episode and then
Yeah,
knock out,
yeah,
I
we're
like
gonna
that.
knock
Yeah,
out per episode, I feel like,
yeah,
till
I
baseball.
like that. To be fun, we do extra episode this week, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna get called this, Sam. I'm sorry for this. I'm not a casual, but that team, the Orioles team, just blew me out of the water. Cedric Mullen, that's who it is. That team blew me out of the water last year. They should not have won all the games they did. That team was not as good as everyone said. That team is very good. That team is very, very good, but they got Corbin Burns and Jackson Holiday. So on a 100-win team that was just young with no playoff experience, who got blown out in the playoffs, getting guys like that, Jackson Holiday's he's incredible. He's incredible. It's going to be hard to figure out where to put him in the infields. And the scariest part is that what they got for Corbin Burns wasn't that much. They didn't really give up that much. So hypothetically, mid-year, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a guy on a low contract. You never know. Like you never know when people like Trout. He doesn't want to get traded right now, but you never know when he wants to get traded. Or
Trout is
Byron,
not going to the Orioles. That is
you
not
never
going
know.
to happen.
You never
We
know
never
what that.
know. We know, Isaiah. He is not going to the or he is not going anywhere. They publicly said we're
The prospect haul that the Orioles could give
yeah.
up would be incredible, and
Okay. I'm gonna say
it
this
would
about
dent
Mike Trout.
their system, but it wouldn't be insane. Continue.
Mike Trout, obviously, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's getting old. I think if the Orioles traded for Mike Trout, it'd be a terrible mistake. That's all I'm gonna
Mm.
say.
I
But
want to argue that.
again, the Orioles, give them a year or two, they're gonna be a dynasty. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I just don't know if they're there yet.
I agree with that. I think when I think of like a dynasty team, I honestly think about the Braves. The Braves not only drafted really well, built that team up well, but they're whoever is rating the contracts for the Braves deserves whatever he wants in the world. Because the fact that they have Adley Rutschman, Ozzie Albies, Spencer Strider, Acuna for like until like 2031, that's like, and they're not even getting paid that much money. They're getting paid a lot more than I'm getting
And they'll
paid.
and they're still gonna lose to the Phillies in the NLDS. That's the crazy part. Anyway,
You
that's for
say
another
that, but I don't know. Bryce Harper's getting old, but I mean, teams like that, like the Braves have sort of lost it a little bit, I would say, in terms of their prospect development. It's been a lot more of just like the guys who are there. But I just love that Orioles team. Like they could give up their top three picks for a superstar. I'm trying to think of a pitch, like an example. I can't even like
and
they
a
could give up
talent.
their picks for like Pablo Lopez, like from the Twins, or like they could give up for like they can honestly make something in the AL, like in the AL West. Get Bregman. Bregman's on an expiring contract. They could get him, add to that infield, add to that depth, and it wouldn't kill them. That's
Right?
the scariest part about that team.
Exactly. Um, so to conclude, my five, Red Sox, you both agree with the Red Sox. My four was the Rays, your four was the Blue Jays. Your three was the Yankees, my three were the Blue Jays. My two were the Orioles, while yours were the Rays. You thought that the Orioles would win are going to win the AL
Back to
East,
back.
and I think the Yankees are going to win the AL
Mm,
East. Again, I'm really not that biased,
yeah.
but you know,
Let me ask you one final question about this too.
right?
What do you think the seeding in the playoff will be for the AL East winner? I think whoever wins the AL East will be the number one,
Oh,
no
they're going
matter
to be the number one. They're going to be
100%. Whoever wins the AL East will be the number one. That's 100% fair.
because the Central you got nobody. Sure, the Astros I guess could be the number one, but even them, oh, it's going to be either the Rangers, Astros, Orioles, Yankees. Those are the only four teams where I think they have a legit shot to be the number one seed.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone in the AL Central is gonna like make a deep run. Uh, Like I don't see the Twins being the number one seed. Definitely don't see the Tigers being the one seed. I don't see you get what I'm saying.
There's no team strong enough. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with that. I think the
none of
AL
that.
East, AL East, yes, it may be controversial with the teams in it, but
If the Blue
the
Jays
AL
win
East
the
has
AL
the
East, whoever
strongest.
wins the
Yeah,
AL East is going to get that number one seed. The Blue Jays
yeah.
win. You have to win 100 games to win the AL East. Period.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to win 100 games.
Mm-hmm.
And in a few years ago, two teams won 100 games. In
Mm-hmm.
2018, the Yankees and the Red Sox both won 100 games in the AL East. I could see that happening with the Orioles and the Yankees, even the Rays. Because remember now, they used to play divisional games way more than they used to.
Mm-hmm.
Or, excuse me, they used to play way more divisional games back then than they do now. Now they're playing every team in the league. So what that means are these divisional games, they're not happening as frequently.
Another
So
way more important.
possibilities of three teams winning 100 games is not that crazy. Obviously, it would be wild and entertaining and exciting, but it's not impossible. It used to be pretty much impossible. It's not
Yeah.
impossible anymore. And that is something that's really scary about the AL East. I think all four of those five teams could win a World Series this year. I don't think the Red Sox are going to win the World Series, but the Blue Jays, they could sneak their way through. The Rays could definitely sneak their way through. The Yankees, Orioles, as we were talking about, they're going to be really good. And to conclude today's episode, because we got about 2.5 minutes left, which is a
Mm-hmm.
shame because I feel like we're just diving in.
Yeah.
Stadium series. I know we don't talk about hockey much, but man, oh man, Stadium series as a New York Islanders fan may have been one of the most frustrating games to ever watch. I know you don't watch hockey as much as I do, but what are your general thoughts about playing hockey outside and like what type of atmosphere is that? Because for me, watching it outside, I've never been to a stadium series, but I've been to NHL games. But watching your favorite team play on national television in front of 70,000 people, nothing better than that. What do you think about it?
I mean, I'll say this quick because we're running out of time, but I mean, in concept, I loved it. I knew some people went to the game. I saw photos. I was a little disappointed. I mean, I've been to the Islanders games at UBS Arena. I love hockey. Hockey is incredibly fun, especially to go to games and watch. The Stadium Series is also an amazing thing. I love the way they do it. My Red Wings are going to be playing next year in Ohio State Stadium. That's very exciting. But I was a little disappointed. It's like you're spending a lot of money for a seat that's pretty much only going to be a nosebleed. You can't really get up in the action. I thought maybe baseball stadiums instead they're a little smaller, get very a little more up close and personal with the teams. But I love the concept, but I don't think it was executed to its fullest potential. Just like the NBA All-Star game, it could be better, but it's good the way it is. I like it, but it could be way better.
Yeah. My last statement before we conclude is that, you know, it's tough. I would never go to a Stadium Series game to watch the hockey. I would go to like, support my fans or whatever, but
Mm.
you literally cannot see anything from the top of MetLife on this tiny ice rink. It's like this big, and you're
Yeah,
gonna
it's
really
tiny.
zoom in. But that concludes episode 2
Yeah.
of 718 Sports. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank everyone for listening. And we're thinking of having an episode this week, maybe
Yeah.
definitely one next week.
AL
And
Central coming soon. Everyone
Central
be
coming
ready.
soon.
Go check
So
the TikTok out, 718
at
Sports. Right here.
718.sports, check it out. And
Mm.
see you later, Isaiah.
Have a good night, Miles. Peace.
Peace.